Well, you've released 4 albums since let's say in the second phase of Europe. Well, your new album is called War of Kings. How do you compare this album to the previous one, A Bag of Bones? What have you done differently?
Well, we toured a lot before Bag of Bones, so we sort of stumbled in the studio. That's a touring band's record, you know. It's and that happens when a band toured too much. Blues starts creeping in because the melancholy kind of touring thing creeps in. So Bag of Bones has an element of that. But after Bag of Bones, we realized, oh man, we have opened a can of worms here. We played live and we can handle it. We can do a great rock record. So then we knew we can handle it. We knew we could stand up and play live and make good music in the studio. And no overproducing or anything like that. So we knew we had that. But I think we decided not to, on War of Kings, not to dive further into the blues. We said, let's not go any further that way. We're more rooted in the classic rock of Europe, of the continent Europe and Britain, and we let's keep that and also make it majestic and classic rock. That was the only thoughts we had, but we never plan much. You know, we just write and go in, and the only thing we do is to make sure we have a new journey, a new studio, a new fearless producer. Try something we talked about in the dressing room, like Dave Cobb. We listened to Rival Sons and we're like, how they make this sound. This is like the old way of recording. 3 mics on the drum kit and everybody's playing, and this guy can handle it. Let's call him. And we called him, and we didn't have a clue that he would be interested. He said, oh, I used to play drums to Europe tracks when I was a kid. I'd love to produce you guys. So he came over to Stockholm and did it. I think Kevin Shirley and Dave Cobb are 2 of the only ones that can handle recording rock and roll the way it should be recording. And I think bands realize that now. This journey in the 80s and 90s have been sort of experimented with a lot of digital media and plugins, which have made it a bit flat. And what's happening now is that people feel they want the real thing. They feel they want a real thing. And those producers can handle it, and we began to handle it as a band. And there are a few other bands, Rival Sons. There's a sort of progressive band called White Denim that I really like, that don't give a stuff about anything, but sounding right and digging deeper, and the expression is there. Jack White, of course, you know. There are so many different diluted versions of Jack White and White Stripes out there now, but he's the real deal. There are the real deal people out there.
You said they know how to record a proper rock album.
Yeah.
Meaning?
That meaning using the right equipment. So what we did in Stockholm, it was a new studio. So we contacted a friend of ours in the band Soundtrack of Our Lives. He runs a studio in Gothenburg, but he has a collection of old gear. Old mics, U47, U67s, all the compressors, amps, tubes. We got 2 suitcases of stuff from them into the studio. So we made sure that you record it warm. The mistake bands do sometimes now is that they record straight into digital media without warming the sound up with old gear. And that's what we did on Bag of Bones, and that's what we did on War of Kings. That makes it special, deeper and warmer and more classic rock. I think, my personal view is you can only record drums, guitar and bass in a certain way. Well, it's got parameters, but you have to be in there, otherwise you don't make the instrument justice. And they did that in the 70s, in the beginning of 80s, but then sort of everybody went on a funky ride, including us.
Well, the album is called War of Kings. It's also the first single, and it's also the opening track on the album, so it has got to be a really important song of this album.
Yeah, it is. We all felt that this is... well, I remember when we started riffing on it, Dave Cobb in the studio said, well, maybe we can change the riff slightly, and added a few notes. And then Joe Norm just looked at me, we have never been this dark. So we've never crossed that line with those few notes. And we rewrote the riff slightly, and the lyrics came automatically. It's from the old Viking saga, The Long Ships, that book, about the first few important battles in the Viking saga, when the Norwegian, Swedish and the Danes were involved, and the kings were self-proclaimed kings and people elected kings were fighting, and it was kind of mayhem, a bit like today, you know. And it's like that was an automatic opener for the album, and a good title. We weren't sure of the title like that. We thought, well, that's a good one, you know. But now we really like it. We like War of Kings as a title.
Was it new for you to have a producer that say to you, well, maybe change a few notes of that riff? Was it new?
Yeah, slightly, but we are very confident at this point. We prepare very well, but we leave 20% for the producer or the studio or the moment to happen. So we were welcoming Dave to come with ideas. On 3 or 4 songs, he added bits or helped us with some arrangements. But we had 11 songs ready. But some of those songs, 3 or 4 or 5, he went in and hey guys, try this, and we did. And he was so fearless though. He had melodies, keyboard melodies. He had some riff ideas, and I love that in him. He's different. We have not had this much involvement. He became a band member for 2 weeks. He's really a musician and has great ideas.
Well, you said the lyrics. You said a bit like today, with the wars and with the what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna dig a hole for myself there and go into any of that. No, it's basically derived, loosely based on the Long Ships, the books, and I suppose in a way people can interpret it and make it work for what's happening today.
Okay, but it's not for you something that you really want to go into.
Not really, no.
That's good. When during the recording of the album was this song written, War of Kings? Was it the first song?
War of Kings was one of the earlier demos we made. John Levin sent it to me, a bass riff. It might have been some guitar on as well, and I worked on it, and I started to come up with melodies. I sent it back to him, and we worked on it a bit, and then we met the band in our rehearsal place in Stockholm, and we worked out War of Kings. In the rehearsal, I slowly started, the words of War of Kings started to come in, and then I was reading the Long Ships, the book. So everything was coming together. In the studio, we presented this song to Dave Cobb. I think it may have been the first or the second we recorded in the studio. And he said, I love this track, but I have some ideas. And then we went into the studio, all of us in the actual big studio with the acoustic guitars, and worked things out.
It's been more than, when you recorded this album, I think it was 10 years since the first album in phase number 2.
Yeah.
Have you found the way that you work now? Yeah.
It's still moving, it's still changing, which is great with the band. A band should always be in transition, otherwise you make the same album all the time. But now I write with, for instance, Mick can send me ideas, Mick Michaela, the keyboard player. John Levin, the bass player, send me ideas on guitar or bass. John Norum has always sent me, so he always sent me some heavier riffs. And Ian Haugland, the drummer, has great arrangement ideas. He's yet to write. He is a part of a few songs on the album because we wrote everything together. Angels with Broken Hearts was written in the studio in just a few hours, maybe 1 hour. Dave Cobb heard John play a riff on guitar and said, look, come on, in true American fashion, let's all meet in the studio and write together. And that was the first time we did that with the producer. We wrote a song on the spot. In the middle of writing it, we got a text message saying Jack Bruce has died. So Ian just said, Jack Bruce has died, guys. And we sitting there, right? And then the lyrics started to change and the vibe started to change, and it became a very emotional track, very dynamic, emotional, and beautiful and soulful. We've never done a track like that. It's truly amazing how that happened, that song.
There's a one line that you say, well, that line really was inspired by his death. Can you pick one line?
Well, the chorus, out of the night come these angels with their broken hearts, watching us tear this world apart because we miss people that are close to us, because we build our love up, we build hearts up, we build our hearts, but they get torn apart, and please don't tear them apart. We're talking to the angels. So it became sort of a little bit ambiguous, but it became a dearly departed, love for dearly departed people, really.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.